You're listening to Amazing Radio. This is Amazing Afternoons. Delighted to say that we have Spielmann on the line with us right now. Spielmann, how are you doing?
Hey Frankie, I'm good, thank you, mate. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Exciting time for you with this Spielmann project because you're working up towards the release of your first EP. We've enjoyed the recent singles, and you've got another single coming out next week, I believe, as
Yeah.
well. I think for the listeners, we want to find out a little bit more about you and how long you've been doing Spielmann.
Uh, I've been doing this for. I kind of started writing the first songs for this maybe about 2 years ago now. I think it was kind of around April time in 2022. But I've been in bands for quite a long time. I'm in my 30s now, and I've been knocking around and played guitar in various bands and written and produced on stuff and kind of been doing it with other people for quite a long time. But this is kind of the first time that after a long kind of thing of going like, should I do something myself? I feel like I should do something myself. Maybe I've got something to say in some kind of way. Maybe I feel confident enough about what I'm doing or know what I'm doing enough now to do it myself. So yeah, this is the first kind of thing that I've been doing all properly myself on my own. So yeah, been kind of knocking around with it for a couple of years. Started playing shows at the end of 2022 and releasing stuff and kind of released a stream of singles self-released throughout last year, and then yeah, building up to this EP 15 minutes with Spielmann, which is coming out at the end of May.
Yeah, exciting things. What was the moment which really made you do it? Was it COVID, or having to be self-sufficient and not relying on anyone, or was it seeing a solo act and thinking, yeah, I can probably do that?
Uh, I think there's a couple of things. I think that in terms of like the creation of like wanting to start doing it, I think that having done a bunch of projects with kind of collaborators that I loved doing, but that had kind of at various points uh, had like success at various points, but also fallen by the wayside at various points. I think I kind of got to a position. I'm a bit of like a jack of all, master of none kind of thing, and like also like a bit of a control freak in some ways. So like all of the I play everything, I produce it, all of the artwork is me. Like I make dumb videos and stuff. So it's all kind of it's quite a good like mindful like creative project for me when I'm stressing about other things that I'm like, right, well, I've got this thing that's actually quite like I'm not, when I'm creating the stuff for this, I'm not really thinking about anything else other than just doing this silly thing, which is quite a nice way of shutting off from the world. So yeah, I think kind of wanting to be in a position where I am the be all and end all of it, which has also kind of put me in a position where like I've not been so keen slash hasty to like try and bring other people in on board, like a wider team or anything like that. I'm quite happy, and because I work in music as well, I know what I'm doing a bit, so I kind of am happy to be like the person. So yeah, that kind of wanting to be like the main, it be me, calling all of the shots kind of thing. And then live, I was really kind of like unsure about playing live with this and like what how I should do it and what I should do. And I'm doing it. I've been doing it solo, and it's me and a sampler. And there's been kind of reviews that have been like, "Is this a comedy show? Is it a show?" That kind of thing. Because I do a bunch of bits that I can't really explain without it sounding super cringy. Like you kind of just have to see it. And yeah, there was a couple of reviews that compared it a bit to kind of I guess a bit like Stuart Lee type of stuff. Um, but that was kind of crafted out of like seeing a couple of live shows of artists that I won't say, but live shows that I saw that was just very like, oh, you're just playing your songs, which I guess is what a gig is. So it's a bit stupid to just be like, oh, I went to see a gig of someone playing songs and they were just playing songs. But there was no kind of like show element to it. And so I very much wanted to kind of uh try and build a live show, especially as it was going to be me on my own, that was more engaging than just kind of like, hey, I'm Ben and I'm here and I'm going to play you 6 songs and then I'm going to go, have a nice night, everyone. Like, I wanted it to be. There was one show that I saw of this guy who, like, he came on and he, like, cracked his water and he was like, okay, guys, are we ready to go? Let's go. Okay, cool. And it's like, that's a way of doing it. But I was like, you've been touring for 15 years and there's 300 people here who have paid to see you and, like, maybe do a bit more. Don't do like a cartwheel, but do a bit more.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I think that's the whole thing about seeing someone live. You want an experience that you'll talk about in like 5, 10 years time and say, "Okay, remember that time such and such played blah blah blah," and it was such a funny night because it was the bits in between, which will you know, if it's spontaneous as well, sometimes these things once are just moments in time, aren't there as well? So, and I guess working in the music industry as well, you'll know, Ben, you need to bring people out and a reason and maybe a reputation for being a little bit unpredictable might just sell a couple more tickets, mightn't it?
I think it just gives something a bit different. I've had people kind of come up and be like, I've had people say, "Oh, you did the funny thing," which you then go like, "Oh, but I think I write good songs. So can you remember the songs as well as just the funny thing?" But they're like, people have come up and kind of been like, "Oh, we at festivals that I've done and been like, we're having a great time here, and we've seen loads of stuff that's been amazing, but your thing has been the most something because it was fun or it was
Yeah.
like we so much stuff just takes itself so seriously, and
Mm.
it's all like without getting too existential, it's all dumb and pointless, really, isn't it? So you may as well have fun with it. Like it's just have a good time.
Yeah, I always found that funny that it was my job for a while to sing songs, and I just thought that was so pathetic.
Yeah, yeah, it's dumb, and that I kind of find it. I think because I've done it for so long, and I'm a bit cynical about it. Like I find it hilarious that people um civilians would think that I'm like a musician or like somebody that is like worth wanting to like talk to after a show and stuff like that. And I haven't. It's happened a few times, and I've not got used to it yet. And it's probably it's really really lovely that people are into it, but they come up and people want to ask you questions and they're really interested, and it's amazing. But you also kind of want to just go like, we're all just idiot people. Like this isn't like I'm not someone that you should be impressed by talking to. Like, I'm sure you do a lot of really impressive stuff that if we actually chatted about it, I'd be impressed by. But the getting up and singing silly songs on a stage is the pedestal that kind of some people have. But I'm not saying it's not a nice thing to have people come up to you and want to pat you on the back. That's I'll take it. It's lovely.
Yeah, feels good. So this EP then, a solid body of work, a consistent body of work. Is that what you felt? You've got with this 15 minutes with Spielmann.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of all. I think that I'd done the singles last year, and I wanted to kind of build up to something a bit more, yeah, a bit bigger. I've never like in all of the things I've done, I've never put an album together, so that's very much like where I want to kind of start developing toward. Um, but yeah, I'd done these singles last year, and I think there was four of them, and they all kind of felt a bit like a piece of work together, like year one Spielman releases, like that's what that is. And then I started writing a couple of songs for this, and I was like, you know what, I want to put it together as an EP, and then um, I'd maybe had kind of like 6 or 7 songs that I was going to pick from. A couple that were very obviously like 10,000 Hours, which was the kind of the lead single that you guys have been playing. Thank you very much. Has like that was kind of like the first one that was like, right, that's an obvious like bit of a banger. That's the single. Let's go with that. And then had a couple of like slower ones and was picking and choosing where to go with that. So yeah, it's much a more considered kind of piece of work, I guess. Um, all kind of pulling within similar themes and like a similar vibe. And then the 15 minutes element of it, it's like 14 minutes 59, all of it together. And I was like, oh, that's quite nice. Like, how can I kind of piece that into a bit of a thing that kind of works with the Spielman like vibe as well?
Yeah, it works brilliantly, and you've decided to release it as well on the side of a pack of coffee. Now, you must be a coffee connoisseur. Being from Leeds, there's lots of great coffee
I mean,
houses around there. Are you a coffee fan, or are you
as
decaf?
long as as long as I can drink it in the morning to wake myself up, I yeah, I'm a coffee fan. I'm not a coffee connoisseur. I'm at all really. There are amazing load of great coffee shops in Leeds, but I was thinking about wanting to release a physical element of the EP, and I looked into how much it was going to cost to like press it, and I was like, that's I ain't got that. I'm self-funded. Like I haven't got that money. Um, I haven't got the fans to like justify the money. So I was like, what's the way that I could do it? And I kind of kicked about a bunch of ideas. I was thinking about like on like a matchbox and stuff like that, and then I think the 15 minutes element of it all kind of pulled together into like, oh, well, you could have a cup of coffee, like make a cup of coffee and have it whilst listening to the EP, that kind of thing. So it was like, right, let's push that. And I think in my head I've got this. It might be wrong, and I'll probably be told by many people that it is wrong. That like people buy, my opinion in some ways is that people buy vinyl because they want like a collectible item, and that a lot of people want that collectible, tangible, like I'm just going to put it on the shelf and it's there. Like I'm not necessarily getting it out to listen to it on my record player. Like I've got Spotify and I've got the download code. I'm probably just going to listen to it on my phone anyway. Maybe. I'm sure there are plenty of people who listen to stuff on record players, but like the collectible element of it. So I was like, well, if you release it in this way, maybe this is kind of, it does the job of being something that is physical, collectible, tangible, but also doesn't cost as much, is a bit fun, is a little bit unique. Like people have released things on many mediums, and yeah, it feels like something that kind of, I guess if I'm like world building with what Spielmann is and like the lyrics and what Spielmann would be doing, there's this kind of like, well, it works within that kind of thing.
It does work. And from self experience, as someone who set up a record shop and with a coffee machine, now does not sell records in, it sells just coffee in it. And people buy coffee more than records. It's the industry we're in. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, the great accompaniment for 15 minutes with Spielman, I'm sure as well. Now, you've got this connection now with EMI North. How did that come about?
Um, that came about because Launchpad, who are based here in Leeds, who do great work kind of developing local artists down here and in Yorkshire, have kind of been helping me in terms of like the technical back end of like getting the stuff on Spotify and PRS and all of the things that um
Boring
take
stuff.
all the boring stuff, all the important stuff, but all the boring stuff. They've been doing that for me, and then they have EMI North have obviously come into
The
the north of
North.
the year, kind of, yeah, and are doing their thing and are kind of helping support local labels and that kind of stuff. And um, Whiskers, who you all know, who I'm sure a lot of people will know, um, is running Launchpad, and he kind of came to me. I basically was talking to him about my next plans for what I was doing, and I'd already kind of put together what I wanted for it and had a pretty like full like this is what it's going to be. And he just said, did I want to release it via them and their EMI North kind of combo deal thing, which just made a load of sense. It's nice. It's nice to kind of have extra people on board to do it, like in a kind of industry way. It's nice to have a bit of like the extra. There's a bit of extra kind of clout attached to it in that kind of way, which is always like in terms of being, I'm very realistic as like a a new artist who has been a new artist in many guises for many years. Is that um it's really hard, and that
Yeah.
like especially if you're kind of trying to do something a bit like yourself or something that like isn't particularly like on trend. Like I don't think that this is. I think this is kind of like the music that I'm making is like a culmination of a lot of different music that I've been into for a long time, and it isn't necessarily like a right that's gonna hit right now because it is this kind of thing. So I think kind of as a in my position, it's who can you in my like megalomania, it's who can I bring in who will let me do that and let me have control, but also kind of be able to uplift it a bit as well and help me push it forward. And yeah, it just seemed kind of like it made sense. They were very much like do whatever you want. We'll just support you in the background, that kind of thing. And yeah, they've been super helpful so far. So yeah, hopefully that'll develop nicely.
Good. I mean, in 2024, I mean, you'll probably know firsthand as well. Is it for yourself just hearing your music and seeing your music where you would probably consume or go to for music as the tangible goals? Is that's the terms of success? Because, no one's going to probably have a number one album, or sometimes that could happen because of how many albums you need to sell physically
Yeah.
to get to number one these days. But is it like, getting the radio players, on Six and Us and other national and European stations, whatever? Is it getting on the festivals that you went to for years? Is it getting some cool shows around the UK? Is that the tangible goals that you set yourself? Because I think
Yeah.
they're there for Spielman.
Yeah, I think that the goals thing is really hard, and I've talked about this with a lot of friends who make music over the years, which is that when you're in doing the goals, your own the sad thing is quite a lot of the time you're thinking about the next goals. And so I played in a band called Bruising a few years ago, and we did a Mark Riley session, and it was great fun. But whilst we were there, we were like, oh, I wonder if we'll get a Maid Vale session off the back of this. And it's that kind of like live in the thing. And I think that as I've got older, I'm definitely a lot more like, we'll just appreciate and have a nice time with the experiences that you were getting. I think that different people's markers of success are different for people. I personally am quite like, oh, have I really achieved success with what I do? And then I talk to um my wife when I'm having these conversations, and she's very like, well, yeah, like strangers have listened, people who have no interest in you have listened to your music, have paid for your music, and have come to see you and want to talk to you about your music. Like that is a success. And you're like, and I'm like, yeah, that is a success, but that's two people. Like,
Yeah.
how does that become 100 people, whatever? Um, but yeah, I think all of those, I think in my head, there's like little markers that you kind of wanna hit. And yeah, getting radio play from like you guys, and then kind of, as you said, like playing certain festivals. Like I got to play Green Man last summer, which was like, that's been a festival that I've kind of admired for a very long time. And I played at 11:45 on the Friday morning in the rain, and expected to walk out onto the stage to like no one, and walked out, and it was really busy, and there were people singing along. And that was one of my kind of moments of like, oh, like this is decent, this is going well. And like, I think that you have to work hard to, when that is happening, go like, wow, that's a really amazing moment to happen. And even if that moment is like here, and there are all of these moments, or there are people achieving all of this stuff, I have very much become of the mindset that like enjoy that moment, because it's still an amazing moment. That like, within everybody who's ever picked up any kind of instrument, like what percentage top are you to be able to do that? Like, there are millions and millions and millions of bands that have ever existed, and how many of those bands have been played on Amazing, or how many of those bands have played at Green Man? And you kind of have to look at it in that, like, I am starting to look at it in that kind of spectrum of going like, actually, success can be measured in different ways. It doesn't have to be number ones, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
with where the music industry is, who knows what people, in other echelons of the industry kind of deem as success as well, is kind of, I think that just, you have to go like, that's out of my hands. I'm just going to do my thing. And if people are into it, that's nice.
Yeah, I think that's a good, ethos to have, Ben. And yeah, I think, I think Spielman is doing those things, and I think there's more to come on the strength of this EP, because I've had a sneaky listen. I think it's very good, and the new single's very good as well, and that's due to drop next week. Am I right?
Yeah, next Tuesday. It's called Just Like Everybody Else. And yeah, it's the second of kind of the songs are being released sequentially off the EP. And it's a bit less of maybe an immediate banger, but it's got kind of big old sing along chorus, a load of woes all over it, that kind of thing. And yeah, it's probably like the way that I write with Spielmann is that there's kind of like, it's written through like a bit of like a character filter, I guess. It's like a good vehicle for me to be able to tell stories that are kind of a certain percentage real and a certain percentage fiction. I think this is probably the one that is the most like paralleled with life. That
Mhm.
it's got a whole bit about, the chorus is about like having a side hustle and trying to keep a job and that kind of thing, which is, as somebody who has played in bands forever, is like, oh yeah, well, I want to do, I want to have a nice life, and I want to do a like that kind of thing, but like I don't want to. It's that constant thing of like, do you work in a flexible, very flexible, probably not particularly well paid or whatever job for a very long time, because you're just like, but what if I get to go and play to four people at the Old Blue Last on Tuesday night? Like, you kind of you like live that life. So trying to balance that versus being like, well, actually, can I have a good job that gives me a comfortable life, and can I also do being a musician and playing shows and stuff on the side of it? Like, how does that all balance out, and what does that look like in a real life setting? And this song kind of gets into that a little bit, and then is kind of just, yeah, jumps off on various tangents about like sort of just a bit existential dread, really.
Oh, well, I can relate to all of what you've just said there, Ben. Very much so. And then finally, the EP will come out at the end of May. Before you get there, though, you're going to be heading, you just revealed you're playing The Great Escape. It's a perfect festival, I think, for Spielmann to play.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I did it last year as well with the Launchpad guys. It's always really good fun to play the Great Escape, like the kind of the buzz around like Brighton as a whole. Brighton's I really love it. JB's Diners milkshakes are like one of my favorite things in the world. It's always a good time. Um, and yeah, it's a kind of interesting one, isn't it? Because it's for the industry. It's to get in front of people in a kind of more like labels and that kind of thing way. So there's always a weight to it, I think. But it's one of those things that when I was first playing in bands when I was like 18, I was like, getting to play the Great Escape would be really cool. So it's kind of what we were talking about before, like playing the Great Escape is really cool. It's nice to be able to say it. And I think that you always take pride when you see like your picture in like the branding of an event, that kind of thing. It's always really nice. But I think the Great Escape kind of has like an extra little kind of like, oh, that's really cool that it says my name next to the Great Escape, that kind of thing. So yeah, in doing that May 17th, 18th, that weekend. So that'll be nice. I've managed to book myself at like midday on the Saturday, and then I'm playing in Sheffield at like 5 p.m. So
Oh,
that's going to be an interesting drive. But we'll make it work. It's fine.
what's the plans after the EP comes out then in the summer? Have you got any other festivals you can announce yet? Any other dates?
Yes, I'm doing. What other festivals am I doing in the summer? End of May, I'm doing Stones Throw Up in Newcastle. End of August, I'm doing Future Yard in Birkenhead, which I've not yet been to Future Yard over there, and it's meant to be great. So I'm really excited about that. There's some very, very good people behind that. And then I'm doing a bunch of dates with the Kaiser Chiefs, which will be fun. At the end of June, I'm doing doing Lincoln Castle, playing Wales, and playing Southampton. So they're pretty big, scary shows, which yeah, it would be great fun. Like Kaiser's have written some absolute bangers over the years, and they're lovely people. So it'll be really nice to do them.
Yes, they are indeed lovely people indeed. And as is Spielman, and looking forward to the EP in full coming out and seeing what you do next, Ben. But it's been a pleasure catching up with you here on Amazing Afternoons. We'll continue to support the music and have fun at the
Yeah,
Great Escape.
thanks, man.